Okay. All right. Hey, everybody. It is the new moon. Yay.
Here we
are ready to just talk to you a little bit today about this energy. I'm really in my grounded energy because my sun is in Virgo and the new moon is in Virgo. So I'm really excited. I'm feeling super on point. I know that some of you may not feel as on point. Hey, y'all. Thanks for joining. I love to see you coming in. And if you're on a different channel and you're catching this later, please comment and say hi. We do read all of our comments and threads. So we're going to do an Astro reading about this new moon, a little bit of breakdown, where she's going to do it. I'll do a card pull. So I just want to let you know who we are in case you haven't caught our videos before. I'm Lisa. My spiritual name is Isla.
And I'm Jamie, and I go by Takata.
So we're the founders of the Temple of the Sacred Heart Church and InnerGoddessRetreats.org. And also I run Yoga for Love online training programs and Inner Goddess Retreats as well. And we have a 200 and a 500-hour online training and a business coaching course for yogis, artists, and creatives. And we also do Reiki trainings virtually and in person. So a little bit about what we're doing coming up. I'll give you some lowdowns of some things that we have going on, and then we'll go right into our reading. Sound good?
Great.
Okay. You can catch us also if you go to InnerGoddessRetreats.org. You can sign up for our newsletter, and we also share some different types of events that are coming up. If you're interested in doing private sessions with us as well, we're both available as coaches to help you through this. I know a lot of us are intuitives and empaths. That's why we're catching each other. That's why our energies are connecting. No matter how you found us or we found you, we're connected on that level where our frequencies are matching. That's why we're connecting that way. So, being empathic, we need help, we need support. And if you're looking for that, we do offer that as well. Private sessions with sound healing, yoga, as well as shamanic teachings and drum journeys, and power animal retrievals, soul retrievals, really bringing back all the particles of our own being into this present moment so we can be fully who we are. And that's why we're here, right?
It is.
So anything you want to share about upcoming events or anything like that to start off with?
We have the Inner Goddess retreat in October 1st, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like coming up 1st through the 3rd?
Yes, it's here in North Texas. We're based out of North Texas. So that's going to be an amazing retreat.
3-day yoga retreat.
Yoga, meditation, sound healing. Takata's going to do an ecstatic dance and around the fire pit, and might do a fire fan performance if I feel like that's called. So it's intuitive. We have a lot of amazing people that show up to bring their gifts. We do healthy vegan potlucks on every meal, lots of sisterhood time. So we do still have some spots available for that, and it's also very affordable. So you can catch that at yogaforlove.com or InnerGoddessRetreats.org. They'll take you to the same space and sign up for that. We'd love to be with you for those 3 days in person. So we're really looking forward to that. It only happens twice a year here in North Texas. And then we have another amazing retreat coming up. Wow, I'm so excited. You want to
Dun, dun, dun.
And that means
Egypt.
So we're going to Egypt, and we're going with Paul Hubbard of the International, what's the name of his school? It has, it's Holographic Sound Healing. I think it's International School of Holographic Sound Healing. I'm going to get that exact one to you, but you can find information for that on our website at yogaforlove.com/Egypt. And it's yoga with the number 4. So you can catch that information there and book a discovery chat for any of the retreats coming up to see if it's a fit for you. We love to meet you before you come on retreat. That way you feel really comfortable when you're there. We already get to know you a little bit face to face on live video. And then that way it feels a lot more, welcoming when you get there, because it's difficult to walk into a space of a bunch of women that you haven't met before. But we do hold a very safe and sacred space for you. So we have plenty of time for personal space and journaling. You can groom the horse, you can hang out on the river and float around, or you can spend time chatting and connecting on your breaks with some of the other women. So we have a henna artist that comes every year, and she does henna. Sometimes we have a reader, our beautiful Reiki master, Linda Ball, will come to some retreats and do auric readings. And so So we do lots of really fun stuff in addition to yoga and meditation. So yeah, anything else that we have going on? We have another ceremony
Oh, yes.
on suing.
In between.
Mm-hmm.
So on October 31st, we will be hosting another plant ceremony. And then we'll be doing, I don't remember what the dates
Winter
are
solstice.
for the winter solstice.
Mm-hmm. So we have 2 plant ceremonies for the rest of the year.
The solstice, but not on it.
Right, so, because that kind of falls around the holidays, because the solstice is the 21st of December. So we have one on Samhain, which is 6 weeks from the fall equinox, which is coming up next week, or, well, a week and a half, 2 weeks. And then we have, Samhain is All Saints Day, is also Halloween. So that's a very, very powerful time to sit in ceremony. And we're sitting with plant medicine. If you're interested in learning more about what that looks like, and learning more about that journey, you can book a discovery chat and talk to us about that. You can go to yogaforlove.com/discovery and book a time with us, and we can talk to you a little bit about seeing if that's a fit for you. And if you have ever sat with plant medicine before and wanted to sit again, we love experienced healers as well as all levels are welcome to this circle. It's a very sacred container, and so we do interviews before you sign up for that. And then, like she was saying, right around the winter solstice, we'll do another one. So we usually do one around the equinoxes and the solstices, and it's all in tune with the rhythms of the Sabbats or the Celtic calendar, the 8 Sabbats of the year. So holla all you witches, you know what I'm talking about out there. But this is the traditions of the seasons, right? And we're honoring the seasons, we're honoring the movement of the sun, the movement of the earth, the movement of the planets. As we do that, we also sit in indigenous practices with chanting and meditation, and the healers of the plants work with that space to really create this great teaching for all of us. And so we would love to share more about that privately. So the Intergoddess Retreat, and then Egypt, and then, we're kind of at the end of the year already. We're in the 4th quarter. Crazy. But yeah, this the year of September has started. So
The year of September is upon us.
yeah, this year has been already 8 years long. If you feel that, holla, drop an emoji for real, right? Yeah, right. Yes, I see y'all say hi. Of course, this has been a very crazy comeback for this after 2020. We didn't really even know what to expect. So it's been intense and transformative, to say the least. And so we're holding space for y'all to step into your personal power and really move into who you are meant to be. And so let's talk about what that looks like astrologically right now.
Well, it is time to do that. If you have not stepped into yourself, do it now. Because everything that may be coming up for you is coming up so it can be cleared, so you can make that happen. Right now, we've got the new moon, of course, in Virgo, but also today begins the post-shadow phase of Mercury going retrograde. So things are going to start to slow down. And
Things
so
like technology.
everything.
A lot of y'all have told me today that you feel tired.
Projects,
anything
that you're working on or doing, things that you're working with, any agreements that anything that you might be trying to make happen, it's going to start to slow down. So anything that you need to get wrapped up ASAP, you need to make that happen now. Everything is coming into this place of like, do it now, do it now, do it now.
Everything's really lined up, and so it's all in your favor. The universe is all in your favor right now. All the cards are pushing forward for you to step into this power, and everything is laid out. Like, you're literally giving everything's been given to you right now on a silver platter, planetary wise. And so a lot of y'all might not be super familiar with astrology, and if you are, bear with me for a moment while I explain this to the others. But when you're working with the energies of planets, each planet is an energetic consciousness, an energetic being that is very alive. And these planets all affect our energy here on Earth, and our bodies are energetic hologramic maps of what we have embodied based on the electrons that we're made out of. And so these electrons that make up our being are very impacted by the energetic fields of all the planets around us. And this is not philosophy, this is science, and it's quantum physics. And so that is why the energies of Mercury moving into retrograde makes us feel different ways, and it makes our emotional states interesting. It makes our ability to know, okay, this time is really perfect. This is an auspicious time to chant. This is an auspicious time to ask the universe for certain things, because all of the energies are aligned, and that's exactly what's happening right now. And it is a new moon.
New moon is when it's new phases, new what you want to accomplish, new missions, new whatever it is that you want to set forth for your path ahead of you. Now is the time to set that in motion. But anything that is coming up as a to be processed or dealt with in order to make that happen, it needs to be faced head on and not pushed to the side. Mercury will go actually retrograde officially on the 28th of September, I believe. Some say 27th, 28th.
I mean, it's an energy that's a cusp, like the new moon. Some people said the new moon was yesterday. Some people said it was today, because it's a window, like it's usually a 72-hour window you have around the new moon, the full moon, the retrogrades. And then the shadow period is what she's saying we're stepping into, where we're starting
is
to
where
feel
you
it.
start to feel that energy coming. It's like a transition. So you start to feel that energy coming in, and that hits today with this new moon. So we're going to start to see things start to begin their slow down phase, things coming up to be cleared. And once that hits, Mercury goes retrograde about 3 times a year. So this is the final retrograde for this year. So we had one in January, February, and one in May, I believe. And so just know that, a lot of people freak out when Mercury goes retrograde, but it can be a really beautiful time, because things do slow down. It can get a little frustrating because things that you want to happen can get paused, halted, put on hold.
This
they're
is not a time to
coming
push
through. It's like this thing that you wanted to happen is just now. It's all these things are in the way. It's delayed. But what it does is it gives you time to be introspective and actually get really clear on what it is you truly want. Is this the best decision for you? Is this the thing that needs to happen? And so that when it comes out of retrograde, which will be October 18th, things will begin to pick up and start moving forward again. And then we'll of course have the post shadow of coming out of that retrograde, where things, it's
It takes a minute.
still coming out of it. So there'll be this little bit of still slow motion, but things are going to kind of come to a halt between September 28th and October 18th. So everything's going to kind of shut down. I don't know what may happen there. Trying to
Just
predict.
be ready.
Be ready. Things may come to a screeching halt.
One thing that can mean too is, if you're pushing and forcing in a certain direction, notice that when you push and force, you're going against the grain. So think about when you're floating like a stick on a river and you're just going with the current. The stick is always going to turn toward the most direct form of current. And that's where we need to be as energetic beings, as light workers, as intuitives, as empaths, as humans living this human experience. We have to be as calibrated as a piece of wood floating on the river where it just naturally just goes with the little curvatures of the land. And if you're going sideways, you're going to get jacked up. You're going to get in the washing machine. So what did you say? So glad I caught this. Oh, good. Thank you, Tina. Yes, it's so true. So, namaste, Robin. So good. So glad you're on. So yeah, it's really crazy that we tend to think, the old school way, like the way of my father is, work, get your shit done, and 9 to 5, and come home and have your dinner, and then the kids go to school, and the mom does this, and the dad does this, and they have to do, and these roles and these ways of forcing things into this box, and it can be configured in that way where that little box is no longer valid. That little box keeps
not serving anymore.
It's not serving anymore. You have to just allow and open your heart to the flow of what's divine and what's allowing in your life, and what's like flowing, not forcing. So does that make sense? I mean, I know that it seems sort of vague for some of you who may be new to this type of teaching, but this is actually the most important thing in manifestation and creation in your life, is attuning yourself to the divine flow, because everything else falls into place. A lot of people are so worried about, like, oh my gosh, I have to make my car payment. I have to make my car payment. Oh my God, I don't have the money for my car payment. And then, of course, what happens when your car payment comes up? Well, you don't have the fucking money, because you've been freaking out the whole time. The only focus you have is, I don't have enough money. I don't have enough money. Oh my God, I need to make some more money. I need more. I need. Instead of being like, the universe has got my back. I mean, I receive random checks in the mail, don't I? Like, all the time. Like, random refunds, like overpayments, like IRS money. Like, it just comes in the mail. I'm like, okay, cool, because I needed to get some, pay for something. Like, so, like, it will just happen.
It does happen.
So when you're in the flow, it will come in random forms. And using positive affirmations are so important to keep your thoughts in alignment. So what box? Thank you. Throw your boxes away. Yeah, the boxes, exactly. There is no boxes. So if you have a box inside your dogma or inside of your old tapes and old stories, try to examine if that box serves you in your highest capacity, your highest good, because sometimes those boxes were created by our parents or our grandparents. And to stay within that box means that we are living in an old paradigm, 50, 100 years ago, and that's not the current energy. That's not what was meant to happen for this moment.
In fact, 2020 was a hard reset. So it actually brought up a lot of what's important, what really works in life. Things couldn't continue as they were and where they were going, but we're still in that. Now we're at a new place of things can't continue as they are, but it is the leftovers that haven't been cleared in the collective from the 2020 experience that are still ongoing. So we started to put trust in things blindly. Started, okay, well, this is now how we have to do things, and going with a new flow, which it was, but also now it's really, there's a lot of distortion taking place, and we have to get really clear with what is true. And the only way to find that is to go within and find your personal truth, what really resonates with you, not what the various hypes that are out there in many different ways. There's a lot of junk being thrown out and about, and fear and hype that are taking place. Not to say that things that are going on in our reality aren't real, but there's a lot of things that are going on in our reality that aren't real.
I want to share a little example of when we were floating these in the holy water. So our spring ceremony, we had these little crosses that were on our altar space, and we were floating them in some brass mortar and pestle jars on our altar. And to attune to the energy, it was the little crosses were acting like a compass, and they were literally turning as they were floating. And there was two of them in two different little brass pots, and they were turning exactly
Together.
to match. They were matching each other. And there wasn't any wind, it wasn't being blown. And so the attunement, first of all, that I was wanting to share, and somebody, this is for you, whomever this is for, is attuning to the white light of the Christ Sophia consciousness. The Christ Sophia is the attunement of the energy of the highest good and the highest agape love, the love that English can't describe, the love that is like the love of your mother without any distortion, the love of our divine mother coming through and attuning to that frequency and allowing that in your heart, and then allowing yourself to be floating just like this little cross. Just allow yourself to point in the direction of that light, and it will attune you and show you what is your next step. The next steps don't appear for us until we can't, okay. Like there was a Michael Jackson video where he was stepping on those stairs and they would light up. Was it like the Billie Jean video maybe? It was like dun, 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 dun. And every time he'd step, it would light up. And so that's what happens. The universe doesn't light up that step for you until you are fully all in and committed and stepping all of your weight on it. Like you can't just put your toe on it and like, oh, there's no stair there, So it's kind of like you're free falling and taking a full skydive jump without a parachute, but then the parachute will appear as soon as you
trust.
Yeah, it's fully trusting. It's all it is. And allow yourself to take that free fall and just like, okay, I know I'm stepping somewhere and I know that the universe is going to catch me, because the universe always has our back. But also, like she was saying, there's a lot of distortion out there. So attuning to the proper frequency is so important, because you can get really out there and follow some really crazy rabbit holes. They'll take you down some really crazy spirals. And so I choose to ask that I'm working within the Christ Sophia light, the light of the Divine Mother, the light of the Christ love, because that, for me, in my work, I know is safe. And it's also clear. There's not any distortion. Now, in the religion part, that's a whole other story. I'm not talking about religion at all. Okay, so don't get me wrong. Don't leave just because I said that. So that there's a lot of distortion in the interpretation of it. So I'm talking about you and your relationship and your truth only, your own highest truth. And it's true for you. It may not be true for your mother, your father, your grandfather, your aunt, your uncle, your sister, your in-laws. Who gives a flying F who is true for if you know you're standing in your truth? Now, how do you know? Because you're sitting in that quiet space. You're sitting in your heart. You're allowing the practices and the tools to come through for you. And that's why we also come onto these videos too, to share with you some of these tools. Because it's hard to do when you don't have a tool belt, right?
And that's exactly what I'm also talking about, in the sense of being able to stay in that light and in that forward trajectory in the path of the light. Anything that is coming up for you right now is coming up to show you how it's preventing you from being in that light. So it is coming up to be healed, cleared, released, let go, so that you can move forward in that clarity. Mm-hmm. That's what it's all about right now.
So and it's scraping off down to
really
the core.
Rapidly for you.
When we are clearing and shaving, it's like honing and chipping and chipping and chipping. And that diamond is inside there. And you're chipping away the coal, and you're chipping away the rock, and you're chipping away the granite, and you're chipping away all this stuff. And all that is shadow. All that is, it doesn't mean it's bad, because there's no judgment on it. It just is. It's there. It just needs to be cleared. It might be someone else's from your ancestral lineage. It could be 7 generations back that you're clearing for. And a lot of us have came here, especially the younger ones, that have came here purposely to clear the karmic crap from all the ancestors, so we do not bring it forward into this new earth. So you may not even know why you're chipping these shadows off and what those shadows even are, and it doesn't even matter. That's the thing. This is not psychotherapy. This is not talk therapy. This is not, sitting with the therapist and talking it out and talking about your problems and reliving them for 20 years, like, oh, okay, I'm going to talk about that trauma. No, it doesn't necessarily matter why. It's important. Yes, I'm not saying it's not valid, but it is not it does not matter exactly why. It's just that you're clearing it, releasing it, and you're moving forward in your path. And there's always action. There's not stagnation. There's always action. So, and we pulled the shark, if you recall, on my live last Thursday. So the shark has to do with constantly flowing, even if it's very slow and steady. Just constantly flowing, moving that water over the gills, and fresh water coming in, releasing that old water, moving through. And if that shark stops and stagnates at any moment, he'll drop to the bottom and sink, and he will die. So he doesn't have a swim bladder. He doesn't have a safety net. Okay? A lot of the fish, all the other fish have safety nets. They have that swim bladder that keeps them upright. But the shark has to constantly trust. He's going to constantly flow, and he's going to find his food source, and he's going to find his purpose, because he's constantly in that space of flowing. Does that make sense? So yeah. So what else is significant in this Virgo new moon, and what does the new moon mean for everybody that's watching?
That's a really great question. So, Virgo being there's a lot of earth energy right now, so being able to be grounded, setting forth with a plan. Virgos like to have a plan.
Yes, we do.
They like to be organized, and it goes like this, and it goes that's the calendar.
Those of you that are Virgos, holla. Yeah, you know what that's like, and sometimes it can be a little much for those that like to flow, like.
But it's good. But it's good because it does bring a balance. Because if you have some things that you need to get taken care of before this retrograde hits, and things start to come to a halt, setting it into motion if it's not already in motion, and really finalizing all the things, making it happen, taking the steps necessary to complete it, and moving forward with that new mission, that new thing. We're moving and fully stepping into this new age at this point. The shift is in full effect, and the more of us that step into our power,
yes,
our highest selves, the faster that shift will take place. And it's just, we've got to all wake up to the true of what's taking place,
and also
around us.
To have that shared vision of peace on earth and what that looks like, and the highest love, what that feels like. Yeah. And it starts with us having that shared vision of the new earth, because that's what we're creating. Mm-hmm. And so I had a very deep conversation recently with a dear friend, and talking about, just like that energy that's dissonant, the one that's consistently coming up and rising against anything that's happening to bring empowerment to, Black lives, to women, to, things that are being brought into action. And then there's this energy that's opposing it, and that opposing force. Well, what happens with that opposing force? That's not our job. Our job is not to focus on that opposing force. And our job is to accelerate the light so that it's brighter and brighter and brighter, and it burns out all of that shadow. So it doesn't necessarily even matter what that opposing force is doing at this point, because it is such low resonant energy that we are accelerating so much higher and faster that will shake out. It's like panning for gold, and all the chunky stuff drops out, and then you're left with the flecks of gold in the end. But you have to do all that shaking, and it is shaking like a mofo, A
lot of that shaking out is actually having to come to terms with the fact that something that you may actually believe in may not have been the truth all along, and that can be a harsh reality to accept. It comes like, oh, I've been being lied to, or this person that I trusted, or this entity that I trusted, this structure that I trusted, are
group,
false.
This dogma,
there's a lot of things being revealed, and the real truth is there. But if you don't sift through it and find the real truth, the gold, and pull that out, it can keep trailing you along, because there are powers that don't want you to
obviously they don't want you to know a lot of things, they meaning those opposing forces, because if we were woke and everybody in the world had access to this information, which we do, right here in our heart, in our crown chakra, in our space, in our third eye, in our voice, in our heart, in our feelings, in our intuitive bodies, we all have this sixth sense.
They can't do it without our participation.
Right, we have to buy into that belief, So there's that whole point that unless we stop believing in what they're creating, and they're also blatantly calling themselves out. It's so obvious that some of these things are so created and manufactured, and the way that the media blasphemes it out there and broadcasts it everywhere and deletes the truth and hides the truth into smaller and smaller and smaller funnels, or buries it down into where you have to really, really dig into remote internet sites and things like that. So that's the thing, is that what's being obviously thrown in your face, don't take that for truth, because they're feeding it to you. They're spoon feeding it to you. And so you need to find your truth on your own. Literally.
Like in your food.
I'm going to be quiet on that because I don't want to upset people, but I can get on my soapbox about that as well. So,
well, that's where the energies are right now with this new moon and the upcoming Mercury Retrograde and the various planets that are in opposition and squared, and without going in too deep into the details of what those are.
Right, and you could Google that if you're really deep into that, but we just want to give you the overview.
It's time.
Yeah, time to step in.
Things are going to come up, and they're going to require an instant reaction to it. Like, okay, I have to do this now.
But right, it's not like, okay, well, I'm going to put on my calendar and I'm going to get to that next week. When spirit speaks and you have a feeling in your heart, the best thing that I can say is to not think about it, because then it comes into your head. And when a message has been given to you in your heart, it is your job to trust that, because you're working straight with the source, and you've already asked, that you're cleanly and clearly working with the Christ Sophia consciousness. Anything else doesn't need to be in my field. So you already know the message is clear, because you already asked, and it's spiritual law that when you ask that other things that don't resonate with that white light leave your field, then it has to leave. And so it's you that's distorting the truth by saying, I'm going to think about that. I don't know what that means. I'm going to research it. I'm going to go and then you get into this rabbit hole spiral, and then by then the message is so distorted that you haven't even been able to bring it through. So the action has to be immediate.
And it can be really little.
Yeah.
Like, for example, just on a small scale, today I've been doing some door dashing. So I delivered some food to a lady who was working at the hospital in cancer center. I delivered her lunch, and she received it, and she was just so grateful. And there was this look on her face. I could see it in her soul. She just was heavy. And she took it, and she was, thank you so very much. And I got out to my car, and Spirit just gave me this message that I needed to actually message her directly and tell her, like, she's going to be all right. And so I sent her a message, keep going, the universe has your back, And her response was, "Thank you so much. I needed to hear that." And in that moment, I knew that Spirit had just told me that she needed that information, and she immediately responded, proving the fact that she needed to hear it. And I could have totally just ignored that, kept driving, gone to the next dash, but that intuition is there, and that's just on a small scale, but that could have and likely changed the whole trajectory of her day, and has uplifted her to a level which is going to continue to ripple out. So it's little things to large things. It makes a difference. Just listen to that.
Listen and act. That's the thing. You can listen, but if it stays in your head, then you're not doing your work. So yes, respond. And so I would like to give you a goddess inspiration card today as we come to the end of this call. And this deck particularly is from Chris Waldher, Kris, and this one is the Goddess Inspiration Oracle, and it has lots of goddesses in here that actually are very rare, like not really super common. It's a very huge deck, so I'm going to just like traditionally shuffle them like you would a deck of cards, which is what I'm being told today, and we're going to get the goddess that's speaking for this overseeing energy right now. These cards are also really slick. That's been the theme song this week. Can y'all tell? Okay, so I'm going to read her. Demeter.
The Mother. Honor the divinity of your grief, then spring will return.
So I would like to speak to this particularly. One of my dear friends came up to me on a message, and she was going to come out, and I've been doing thread dreads for people, kind of like I have in my hair. And she's a sister I've been trying to connect with in person for a long time. And she has been dealing with a lot. And I have had such a massive transformation. I wouldn't call myself an expert in grief because it sucks to be an expert in grief. But, both of my parents are crossed over. All of my grandparents are crossed over. I'm still grieving the 29-year happy marriage that ended abruptly this year, by choice, but it's a grieving period. And so speaking to grief on that level, it is something that must be honored. Grief is something that it doesn't hit you when it's convenient. It doesn't even hit you in the time where you think you should be grieving, because you're like, I don't even feel anything. Am I numb? I really do a lot of practices that try to keep me from feeling like I'm numb, but what the fuck? Why don't I feel anything? And then all of a sudden it's just like literally like a train, and it will hit you, and you have to honor it. You have to feel. And, numbing it with alcohol, with weed, with, overuse of sex or shopping or whatever your vice is, it will still always be there. So as soon as you max out that credit card or you drink 15 shots in the evening, you're gonna finally come to the realization that it's still there. So dealing with it in the sense of with the Divine Mother. And so I've been doing a lot of work with the Divine Mother and the Goddess in all her forms this year, and she has been gifting me with information that is channeled through these great teachers. And it's such an honor to have those teachings come through. And so when the Mother speaks, she speaks with wisdom, and she speaks with love, and she speaks with kindness. And so know that when you're sitting in your grief, you are also being held by the Divine Mother. You're never alone in that. And even though you might be alone in the physicality in this realm, there is that space and that heart space that you can always lean into, that's always open there in that Divine Mother frequency, the energy of Amma, the energy of the Virgin Mary, the Mother Mary, not the Virgin as in the sweet little girl who had a baby that was, immaculate conception, and she was just so innocent. No, I'm talking about the power of the Divine Mother, who was the freaking badass goddess that was so connected to spirit that she conceived immaculately. That is the power of the mother that I'm talking about. So let's hear what she has to say.
This season's motherhood and loss. Demeter, Greek goddess of the harvest, is considered the mother archetype of the triple goddess. Her story has offered consolation through the ages to mothers everywhere and serves to explain the seasons. When Demeter's daughter Persephone was abducted by Pluto, god of the underworld, to become his bride, she searched to the ends of the earth for her child. Demeter soon learned that Zeus had allowed Pluto to wed Persephone. At this news, grief and fury overwhelmed the goddess. So that the earth might reflect her sorrow, Demeter halted all plants from flowering and ripening, thus creating winter for the first time. The main ritual associated with Demeter was the Thesmophoria. I don't know this one. Thesmophoria, which allowed women to work through pain. It allowed them to honor their grief and recognize its goddess-like divinity. Honor the divinity of your grief, then spring will return. Beautiful.
It's a beautiful teaching.
Thesmophoria.
I don't know. I'm not familiar with that festival and that honoring, but I guess it's an honoring of Demeter.
Thesmophoria.
So it's a Greek festival, probably.
Yeah.
So we'll get back to you on that. But Demeter, here she is in the woods. She is in the winter woods, as you might see in this card. She is in the energy of the birch. I went to Connecticut this year, and I was also in Maryland in the wild old growth forests, and I did a lot of private hiking to different waterfalls. And the medicine of the birch is extremely magical, and it is the medicine of the stripping down and the bare and the beautiful white bark that's exposed in that time of the year. And the power of that tree, the power of that medicine is so strong. So that's really what came here, and I just I wanted to share that, the medicine of the birch also with you. So we're coming into fall, but the seasons also are encyclical with our emotions. So not necessarily with the exact time of year. So this is, if it's a winter season for you in your emotional field, just know that when you sit with it instead of run from it, or don't even allow yourself to judge it, because there's no good and there's no bad feelings. There just is. And the feelings will always rise up, and then they will always fall away. And it's just like the tide, it will come and it will go. But if we try to fight it, that's when we get, like that massive 13th wave that'll just take you down and pull you out and suck you into the current, the undertow, and pull you a mile out from shore where you have to swim back. So the letting go of the fighting and just sitting in it when it comes, and if you're in traffic, go pull over and just cry your eyes out. You just gotta be with it when it hits. And she's been with me many times when I just cried and cried and cried and cried and cried and cried and cried. I don't know why exactly I'm even crying sometimes, but it just has to move through. And so it's a very necessary energy, and it's not a bad thing, y'all.
Grief is beautiful, actually. It's quite beautiful.
Yes, even though you have to feel all the feels. All the feels. But the feels are why we do the work, right? Because also you feeling it helps you to be there for somebody else who might be feeling it later.
Well, that's what this whole Earth experience is about. It's about the five senses and the feelings. And that's what human experience is.
Yeah. So we're going to do a card from the Power Animal Oracle from Stephen Farmer. I love his work. We have his book over there. No, that's not his book. We have another one by him. But this one is really great also. And I'll post these on my Instagram story for y'all. Well, this one just came up so fast. The fox. Adaptability. Adapt to the changes that are happening.
I turned right to the coyote.
Well, maybe that needs to be a bit of our message today as well. So here's the fox. Adapt to the changes that are happening.
All right. It's important and necessary to use all of the life skills you've learned to not get stuck in any rigid thinking, patterns of behavior, or familiar emotional traps. And if you find yourself there, to get unstuck as soon as you can. Walk outdoors, do something physical and mindless to shake things up a bit. You have to be flexible right now and adapt to the circumstances rather than trying to make the circumstances adapt to you. There are unlimited possibilities as to what will happen next. You can feel much more at ease and unstressed if you allow those possibilities to unfold. Adjust your attitude and actions to agree with them and prepare for your next move by being open and willing to go with it. Stop fighting the way things are or demanding that things change. Life knows what it's doing. Trust that and shift with the continuum, whether it moves slowly or swiftly, and life will be much easier. Additional associations, shape-shifting, flexibility, cunning, and subtlety. The fox.
So as we were speaking, this is so on topic, right? To kind of loop back to the beginning of our conversation today. And again, that adaptability is that ability for the compass just to float and us just to go with the direction of the compass. And if it spins, just spin with it. You know, I mean, you don't have to be like, oh, I have to go that way though, but I was going that way. You know, like you're fighting, oh my God, I want to go that way though, I want to go that way, you know? And it just gets so exhausting, y'all, does it not? And it's really ridiculous how we fight it. So we know without a shadow of a doubt that the universe has our back, that God, Goddess, Creator, the divine great spirit, the one creator that's within us, that we are one with, knows that everything we're creating has infinite possibilities. And so if we're allowing this compass just to spin and to float, then a possibility that we may not even, our human mind could have never imagined, will come up, and then bam, here we are in this exact trajectory of something so beautiful, so much more beautiful than we could ever have even imagined, because we allowed the openness and trusted that the universe has our back. So what about the coyote that came in? I really feel like that's...
I mean, the coyote always comes in for me, right?
Well, there's trickster medicine, but the coyote also has to do with the South, the child, the innocence. So let's see what coyote has to say for us.
Coyote, wise fool, accept your follies and find the teachings in them. Pause for a moment. Think of those times when you've acted thoughtless or foolish, perhaps even recently. How did you feel? Embarrassed? Ashamed? Well, it's time to let it go, to stop attacking or shaming yourself. It's not just about forgiving yourself or blandly accepting these instances. It goes way beyond that to loving the fool inside, that part of you that with such childlike innocence behaves in a way that sometimes brings on social or self-condemnation. To sincerely and deeply love that part of you surpasses rote forgiveness or bland acceptance. It opens you to loving yourself unconditionally, as well as loving the foibles of others. The burden of such shame is too great for anyone to carry. You must see these idiosyncrasies with a sense of humor. When you do something foolish, the sooner you can laugh about it with yourself, not at yourself, the sooner you can move to a place of true self-acceptance. it's often only later when we can look back on these situations that we can discern the more important lessons and the wisdom contained within them.
Mhm.
Additional associations: the trickster, sociability, adaptability, and wisdom keeper.
You want to speak to any of that? I know you seems like you have something to say.
All I can think about is the receipt.
Oh my
Like in the
gosh.
air, which I know we've told that story before, but it's in my own acceptance of my trickster energy. I have had to learn just that, the ability to witness it happening and being able to laugh at it playing out.
In the moment.
In the moment. And now I can truly embrace that piece of myself, and I love it. I love that that is a piece of who I am. But it took me a while to recognize it. So the trickster energy can play through you as a character in ways that are just...
Like you see the strings of the marionette being pulled and you're still doing it.
It's just...
And you're still doing it. And it still has to finish out.
It has to play itself out. So an example in short form, at an airport, we were coming back from Hawaii, and we're like the last people through the gate trying to get to the airplane, and the TSA is like waiting for us to come through so they can examine our bags and they can be done for the evening.
And everything lined up exactly to the degree of the moment for everything to be happening in that within that day.
It was just...
It was magic.
So magical. And I had this receipt that the lady had just given me, and I walk around back behind her to go to meet the TSA guys that are standing.
It's a little tiny outdoor airport, y'all.
There's
There's nobody there.
Impatient, they're waiting,
They want to go home.
They're ready to go home. Literally, we're the last people. If they could just come on, we can leave. Well, we are coming. And then, like, this breeze comes along and it catches this receipt. It blows the receipt out of my hand, and it catches it in this weird vortex where the receipt just keeps looping in the air in one spot, just like fluttering about. And I'm trying to catch it, and it's just continuously moving, and they're standing there, and I'm watching it flutter, and I'm like realizing, like, okay, I can't catch it. This is all this, it's holding us up, holding them up, but it is not of my doing. I didn't necessarily create this moment as much as it is happening through me, this moment. And it is something for everyone here, and I don't know what it is, but it's playing out through me. So I'm literally trying to catch it, and I'm turning to them and going, do you see that this is happening? I'm not doing it, I'm not creating it, but it's happening. And they're just...
It's still flying in the air.
But I'm witnessing it play out. I'm not embarrassed that it's happening to me. I could have gotten totally embarrassed by, oh my gosh, they're waiting on me, and I'm fumbling about. But I just saw it as it's playing out through me, and I'm just this actor in the play. And this is hilarious that this is one of the things that could happen. Finally, I catch the receipt in the air, and I'm like, okay. We like make it through. They finish us up. We get to the plane. Everything is good. But the moment that happened, it was just like appreciating that could play out in such a way, and loving myself for the fact that kind of thing can happen if you allow it. It's something for everyone.
Yeah, it does happen quite often to her in random situations. That's why she wears the Maui hook, because Maui, any of y'all who saw Moana know he's the trickster. And that energy, a lot of y'all might carry that, but that's why that came in today too, is also for the child in us, because we held ceremony this last weekend, and the maternal energy, like I mentioned, is one of the gifts that comes through as I'm holding space for other as well as myself. And the maternal energy also requires the other person to be in the role of the child, because when you're in a maternal role, you can't be a mom without a kid. I mean, you can be a maternal mom to dogs or whatever you're momming, but you have to have a recipient of that energy. It's a reciprocal energy. It's an energy of divine love that comes through the heart, and it's gifted out. But also, I have witnessed that people, if they are not in a receptive role and don't allow that love in, they will not be in the role where they can receive. And then they get resistant to it and irritated or offended, or whatever rises up, whatever that shadow is that they have to do the work with will rise up. And that coming through me, I can't help that comes through, because it is that divine love that comes through, regardless of how they receive it. It's my job to pour that out in the space that is held. And if it causes someone not to receive it, I can't control that. All I can do is do my work and give that love and let it pay forward. And then when they receive it in from the back of the heart, then they can give it forward in their heart chakra, and it'll continue to make that evolution, and the circle gets bigger and wider as we expand that circle of love. But also there's a point where you stop receiving it at the back of your heart and it hits a wall. You heard the term people putting up a wall. Well, if that love hits that wall and it says, nope, I'm not ready to receive love, I'm not worthy, I don't need love, I don't need shit, I got this on my own, I got this, I'm a big girl, I got my panties on, I got my heels on, I'm not going to receive that love. And you keep trying to give the love, but it hits the rock wall. And it's our job to start breaking down those walls so we can become like little children. And that's what Jesus said. It wasn't that you have to be a kid, when the Bible verse is talking about come to me like a little child. We come to the Great Spirit in the eyes of a child because we come in a point of surrender, constantly being a student, constantly being able to learn. I'm always a student, always learning, and there's always students that will be my teachers, as well as teachers that will be my teachers, as well as nature will be my teachers, but we have to be in that space of receptivity, in that child space. And that's another meaning of this, the coyote in the south. So.
Not cutting yourself off.
Right. So
those people at the airport could totally just drop their arms and gone,
that's
wow,
super funny.
This is happening, and could have laughed in the moment with me, but they chose not to.
Right.
That was magic. A receipt doesn't just blow out of your hand and then float in one spot. For 3 minutes. That doesn't just happen, but it did happen.
Right. So just seeing the magic, choosing to see the magic, that's part of being in the flow. And a lot of y'all that are, that talk to us on chats and things like that are like, I see these things that happen, and then this thing happened, those serendipitous moments align. Y'all, that's life. That continues to happen. It never stops. It gets more and more and more serendipitous, so that every single thing is perfectly lined up. And we don't even know how it's going to play out. But and sometimes it loops back around for you to say, oh, that's why that happened. Sometimes we never know. But sometimes it loops back around years later, or 14 people knew this person, and this person came back around, and then 5 years later, this person, who knew this person comes into your life, and you're like, okay. Really, you can't make it up. So all of this is divinely aligned by our own sacred contracts as we step into this life. And it's to honor those contracts is so, so important. To honor your own personal contract. And if you...
It's 444.
Yay! Oh, perfect. I was just getting that message about 444. So when you're in alignment, the angels will come in. That's 444 right there. And so things will line up perfectly for you. You'll see the magic and you'll be able to live in it. And so, again, if you need help, you want tools, just reach out to us on a private message or book a chat, yogaforlove.com with the number 4/discovery. And we'll be happy to sit down and talk with you, see what might be a good fit for you, a good place to start. There's tons of free tools and worksheets specifically for today, I want to offer you the Find Your Fire bundle that I have. It includes the shamanic 9 directions, how to smudge your house. It's a really good time to do all this and that deep work into the directions and clearing. I have a medicine bundle in there. So it's store.yogaforlove.com, and you can grab that Find Your Fire bundle. And so just scroll all the way down to the bottom of the free stuff.
Fresh start.
Yeah, it's a great time for a fresh start. So reset your altar, set new things out, get some flowers, cut some plants, bring them inside. And so with that being said, we'll see you on our live on the full moon in 2 weeks. And meanwhile, I'll do a couple of live classes between on my Instagram at Yoga for Love Lisa. And we are so looking forward to connecting with you again. Make sure you subscribe, forward this video to anybody who you think might get some use out of it, and we'll see you soon. Namaste. Bye, y'all.
Bye.